Hi, my name's Rick Thomas. I'm a senior retirement strategist, and I'm here with an important message for you today. I want to talk with you a little bit about money, your money. I think you'll agree, although the love of money is perhaps the root of all evil, it's a very, very important thing to have. It's kind of like air. It's only important if you don't have it, and so throughout our lives, we definitely need money to fund our lifestyle and to pay our way. And when we can't work anymore, we get into those retiring years, it becomes even more vital that we have saved properly, that we've set in motion things that are going to provide the financial resources for the rest of our lives. Years ago, there was a strategy known as the three-legged stool retirement strategy, which said you really should have three pillars, or like a three-legged stool, three different contributing factors to go into your retirement. The first being a pension. Years ago, most people worked for a company, a single company, 40, 50 years, and then they retired with a nice pension and a gold watch. Well, those days are gone. And if you're lucky enough to have a pension at all, you're probably aware that the amount you're going to receive on your pension is going to be woefully insufficient to replace your income. The crazy thing is today, people change jobs every 2 or 3 years. So even if the pension system was in place, it really wouldn't work because of the necessary vesting period and rules and things that go along with that. So pension has definitely got some difficulties with it. Social Security is the next leg. Back in the 1940s, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt was president, Social Security became a new plan. It was a very well thought out program where a little bit of everything, everybody, all of the workers in America would make would go into a big pool, a big fund, and that then when those workers were of retirement ages, the people in the workforce contributing in would basically have paying out the amount going to those people on Social Security in their old age, and it would be a self-perpetuating fund. Well, a couple things happen. Number one, after the baby boomers, the amount of new workers going into the workforce all of a sudden started to decrease. And the flip side of the coin was the government started to pull money away from Social Security. So here we are in 2024 looking at maybe a 10-year period of time where Congress starts to cut the benefits 20, 25, 30%. And so that leg is either going to be shorter than what you see there or almost pencil thin. And so not able to provide the stability we need as far as Social Security goes, if it's even going to be available and around. And then we have personal savings. It's recommended that people save anywhere from 10 to 20% of their income if they're able. I know as a kid growing up, we were always taught that the first 10% that we earned should go to contributions, tithes, offerings, that sort of thing. And then the second 10% that we earn should go to us, to pay yourself first. The Richest Man in Babylon, a great book written in 1926 by George S. Clason, points that out. You can never spend yourself rich. So putting away some money is a very important thing. Today, the average American has less than $10,000 in savings. So if you look at all three of these legs, we are broken. Financially, we are broken. And so when you look at how much you're making now and what you're probably expecting to make in retirement, you're going to have what we call an income gap. In other words, you're making this amount of money now, and the projected amount you're going to make is going to be much, much less. Concern comes, how are you going to live on that? A gap is the difference between the income earned while earning compared to the amount you're going to be receiving in retirement. So the question is, do you have an income gap? How big is it going to be? And what are you going to do to alleviate that gap? We find there's three things that you can do to fix an income gap. The first is you can learn to live on less. So let's talk about that. Living on less. Some people have said that's not going to be a problem for me because I'm going to have the mortgage that'll be paid for. My cars are paid for, the kids are raised and gone, the college is taken care of. I can live on less, certainly can live on less. Well, let me ask you two things. What about that inflation, shrinking dollar? More money it takes to buy the same amount of goods and services, number one. And number two, when you retire, don't you want to go and do some things? I mean, people are living longer. We have that what's called the longevity risk. And so just by living on less with inflation taking more and more of a bite out of our true spendability, it's going to be really difficult to do that. Second, you could work longer. And there are some people doing this. Go down into the big box stores and you'll see those 80-year-olds standing there as greeters. Is this what you really want to do? Well, you could work longer, but then what's the risk there? Is that you'll get sick, suffer incapacitation, and you won't be able to get out there and work longer. That is an option, though. And then third, you could save more wisely now. That is what we recommend you do. And we're here to talk with you a little bit about some of the things that you might do to save more wisely now. But first, let me ask you a few questions. Let's put on our thinking caps and ponder a few things. What does your retirement look like in terms of lifestyle and financial options? How important is it to have a tax-exempt source of income during your retirement? I'm going to stop on this one for just a sec. There's three ways that we can pay our taxes. We can either pay our taxes up front forever out of our paycheck. You know that. It's probably the way you're doing it now because you're filing a 1040 form, filing your taxes every year, which is great. It's necessary. Then there are ways that you can pay your taxes later. That's called tax deferred. And there are plans like the 401k, the 403b, IRAs, a lot of ways that you can pay your taxes later. So the whole concept there is if you've got $100 to put into the investment, rather than, paying taxes on it first and maybe having only 75 to put in, if you're in a 25% tax bracket, putting in the full amount, the concept is if you've got more to put in and it grows at a certain rate, you're going to have more to come out on the back end. The question is, what are taxes going to do? Is the government going to lower taxes, keep them the same, or do you think they might raise them in the future? So we're talking about tax-exempt sources or tax advantage sources. Is that important to you? Do you know about them? Did you even know they existed? What would it mean to have a reliable stream of income that isn't affected by market downturns, taxes, or inflations? What are your greatest fears and concerns over money? I know mine. My greatest fear is not to have enough money and get to the point in my life where I've still got, 10, 15, 20 years ahead of me and not the money to support myself and my loved ones in those years. What do you think about? What are your concerns? What concerns do you have about inflation and the effect it'll play with your retirement income? What concerns do you have on taxes and their effect on your retirement? What concerns do you have about the stock market and its volatility? How will this affect your retirement? Just some food for thought. So when we look at what you could do as far as ways to save money, ways to set it aside, there's basically three different ways that you can save money. This chart shows you an example of all three of those ways. $10,000 invested or saved in 1997 and then looked at the end of 2022. You have, first of all, the blue line where the option is to put the money into a fixed account like a bank account. And it grows pretty steady, just doesn't grow very much. 10,000 would have grown to 25,000 by the end of 2022 from 1997. Or we've talked about a little bit of the stock market. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up. Look at this. In 2008, the stock market lost about 40%. So it's volatile. It can lose you some money. It can gain you some money. In fact, over 25 years, it would have done a lot better than this fixed account, but you would have had the volatility to go along with it as well. And then we have the purple line, which is the indexed strategy, where you can gain on the upside up to a ceiling. In this example, it shows a 13% cap or ceiling. And there's no risk against downside loss. Look at these 4 years of slide in the stock market, and you compare the purple line in the index, and you didn't lose a dime. Zero is your hero here. So it's like this. The market goes up, your index goes up. The market goes up, your index goes up. Maybe not quite as high, but it still goes up. The market goes down, your index stays right there. And so this is something that we feel you at least ought to consider. How do you feel about the potential to accumulate cash value in a way that's linked to market performance while allowing protection against market losses? So again, good question to ask yourself. If you found a way to potentially eliminate the risk of market losses and create a tax-exempt income, would you be open to exploring it further? Now, the 401k is kind of like the pension of the 21st century. It's kind of replaced the pension. Many employers have 401ks available, and even some employers will say, listen, if you put in $1, we'll match $1 up to a certain percentage of your income. So in this example here, we have an employee putting in $100 a month and his employer matching with $100 along with that. And the experts tell us, this is, by the way, invested in the stock market. The experts tell us to figure somewhere around a 5% gain long-term because of the volatility factor, the ups and downs. Over 22 years, that 25,000 is going to grow into 170,000. And the rule of three says, don't take out 5, only take out 3, so that you're not ever going to totally deplete that account. $425 is what you'd put away into your pocket every month. Okay, here's plan B. We start with 0, starting a little later, and this is just coming out of your pocket, $200. But in an indexed strategy, we can show you how to safely get 7, 8, 9%, maybe even more. If we look at just 7, kind of a worst case scenario, 22 years is going to generate 125,000. So when is 125,000 worth more than 170,000? When you can access 700 out of that account rather than 400. And keep this in mind too. This 400 is taxed. So after your taxes, you're probably only going to have about 300 here as opposed to 700 here. So in the final analysis, it's not who saves the most, it's the one who can spend the most that wins in retirement, to have more spendable dollars. And this is just one of the strategies that we can help you with. A few more questions before we end. What might happen if you continue with your current retirement plan without addressing these concerns? Are you on a downhill track? Is your financial picture gonna hit a rocky conclusion? How would your retirement lifestyle be affected if your savings don't grow as expected due to the market volatility and or taxes? How soon would you like to start planning for a more secure and tax-efficient retirement? How much could you comfortably set aside month after month to increase the amount you'll have in retirement? These are just some of the many questions you might be asking yourself. We would like to help discuss these with you. We have a no-charge complimentary comprehensive analysis that can go into detail of your specific situation so that when you retire, you can do so with much more than you have right now while you're working. Well, thanks for taking your time and spending a little bit of that with me. My name is Rick Thomas, Senior Retirement Specialist. And if these things make sense to you, just get with the person who sent you this video, and we'd be glad to do a follow-up interview with you. Thanks and have a great day.